Well, speaking of rolling with it, I want to introduce our next guest who's been rolling with the legacy of Manos for pretty much her entire life. I, of course, am talking about one of the stars of Manos. She played Debbie, Jackey Neyman Jones. Everyone, please welcome Jackey Neyman Jones.
Welcome, Jack.
Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
I don't know whether to thank you for the glowing review or to apologize. I mean, but I do like to say it's not my fault. I was a child.
Yeah, you're blameless. You skated through the whole thing. You didn't know nothing.
I was a victim.
Yeah, that's right. It's amazing, and I've gotten to know you a little bit over the years, and so got to do the forward to your book and look at and read your book and stuff, and know your story a little bit. But can you take us back and just kind of tell us what your world was like? I know your dad's the master, right? And why don't you just tell us how your version of it all?
Okay. In a nutshell, I was 6 years old, turning 7 that summer. My dad was in community theater, and I brought a couple of little props I just wanted to show you, just so you know that when there's a bad film, there's a lot of people involved. It's not just one person that makes it bad. So my dad was in community theater, and he always played the lead roles. He played King Arthur in Camelot and Don Quixote, and he was R.P. McMurphy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I mean, like heavy roles. And he won Best Actor of the Year award 2 or 3 times at the Festival Theater in El Paso, which is where Manos began. And he literally won Best Actor of the Year in 1966, which was the year Manos was made.
Wow.
So there.
Wow.
But yeah, my dad.
That's great.
My dad made all the props and the art, the master's robe, the Torgo staff. The one behind me is not the original because I'm an artist as well, and I've recreated a lot of the things from Manos, and I do my own art. But so my dad was chosen because they were all in a play together. They were in Henry IV. Hal Warren, who wrote, directed, and produced Manos, was in the play, and John Reynolds was in the play, and Bernie Rosenblum, and I just went blank on his name, but the crew guys, they were best friends, and they were crew in the theater. So Hal basically got everybody from this one production, except for the women. They all came from the local Mannequin Matter modeling school. So if they look like they were just posing and walking like models, it's because that's really all they knew. And
Excellent.
And so as a child, my dad was my ride. So if I was going to be in any scenes, then I had to go with him and stay for the full time. And I had no supervision. So it was awesome for a 6-year-old kid. In the desert at night, I was poking in crooks and I was all over the place, and I'm lucky to be here. But it really was the best summer of my life. My mother made the costumes. My great grandmother's quilt was on the bed. The Doberman Shanka was our family dog. And as far as Shanka, the name Shanka is actually a Native American word that translates basically to dog. So it's hands of fate and
dog the dog.
Dog the dog.
Yeah.
Cool. I like that. I'm sensing a theme here.
So, the premiere was really a disaster. Hal was truly a salesman. And it's funny that you showed that short, Hired, because Hal did sell cars at one point. He was a car salesman. And so he had friends at the local car lot. He borrowed the lights that scanned the sky, and he found a red carpet somewhere. He rented a limo everybody, cast and crew, had no idea what to expect. We hadn't seen the film beforehand. We knew it wasn't good, but we really had no idea what we had gotten into. And so we all showed up in, opera gowns and gloves. And my mom and I spent half the day, it felt like to me, in the beauty parlor getting our hair done. I had this beautiful dress. All the men were wearing tuxedos, and we go in, we sit down. The sheriff's son remembers that the mayor gave his dad an honorary sheriff's badge as they went in. And then the kid was wondering why his dad was grabbing him, and they were running out of the theater as quickly as possible afterwards, as all the cast and crew were. We were just trying to get the hell out of there as quick as possible. So the theater canceled the rest of the run. They only showed it that one night. And the El Paso community was very kind in that they really didn't write much about it. They let us all live it down. So it disappeared, and I grew up with these wonderful memories, but not able to ever find or see the film again. So I held on to the memories, and then 27 years go by. And I'm married, and I have a young son in Northern California. My dad was living on the Oregon coast, and he called me one day in January, I believe it was, in 1993, and he says, "You'll never believe what I just saw on television." He was a Mystery Science Theater fan, and he was home that weekend in his easy chair, kind of watching TV and dozing off, and he heard this familiar music, and he opened his eyes, and there he was. Wow. So he watched the whole film because he was just horridly fascinated. And then he called me and he said, "You'll never believe what I just saw." And he told me it was on Comedy Central, and we had Comedy Central, and they had an 800 number in the corner of the screen. So I didn't know what to do. I was just blown away, and I did the only thing I could think of, and I called that number. And you have to understand, this is on a weekend, and an actual human answered the phone. And he said his name was Matthew, and he was in the HBO offices in Manhattan. I told him that they had just shown a movie that my whole family was part of, and was there any way I could get a copy? So he asked what it was, and I told him the title, and I was shaking. I was just, I can't believe I'm this close. And there's this long pause where I didn't know if he'd hung up on me or if we got disconnected, and I'd have to get the courage to call again. And suddenly he blurts out, he goes, "Oh my God, are you Debbie?"
Wow.
Oh, man.
Wow.
First indication that anybody other than me on this whole planet cared about that movie.
So how did the rest of the people know, vibe it, that this is going to be a real stink burger?
Well, I knew as a child a couple things happened, and one of them was I was shy, and I would say my lines quietly, and how it always go, "Oh, it's fine, we'll fix it in the lab." And I remember being 6 years old, and I have a 7-year-old grandson now, so I get it. That age kid is pretty observant. And I think, how are they going to fix all this? And then when they killed the poodle, that was one of the ways I knew it was really bad, was because they got a toy poodle and tore him open and poured stage blood on. And then Hal pulled me aside to make sure that I knew they weren't going to kill the poodle. I'm like, yeah, right. Like, I believe that's real, but I really, we all knew it was bad. And Hal was never trying to make a good movie. What his ultimate goal was to bring attention to the beauty of the Southwest. And he was hoping to be the guy who launched the film industry by just bringing attention to the area.
Right.
Oh, it happened in a kind of a backwards sort of way, but yeah.
Not in the way you'd expect. I mean,
not really. At the premiere, that's when all of us really new. And for me as a kid, I remember sitting there and, everything else around me kind of just went away. I was just staring at the screen, waiting to see myself. And there I am, and my mouth opens, and this weird voice comes out. And I could hear the audience laughing, and then the audience started riffing it after that. I mean, the audience had a lot they were saying and laughing and heckling a bit. And I just remember being so embarrassed and so humiliated.
Wow.
Oh, it was
wow.
awful. I think I probably cried through most of it.
Oh,
Oh,
Jackie.
no.
Oh my gosh.
I'm okay.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
No,
That
I
was
know,
all-
but you're just a wee one, and what an
Yeah.
experience to go through.
The projects that have been inspired by Manos are pretty awesome. There's coloring books, there's trading cards, puppet theater, Manos the Hands of Felt. There's been 2 stage productions, one in Portland, Oregon, and one in Chicago. There's albums, there's a band, Manos, the band of fate.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Did not know
there's
that.
a lot out there, but it's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience. And while my dad was still living, we really enjoyed it. People would always say, "Does the master approve?" And he did. Because I would go to events and I would always check in with him. I would always pass messages to him from the fans and let them know what he had said. And, it really brought us closer together later in his
Oh,
life. And,
Lovely. Wow.
I give Manos a lot of credit for a lot of healing within our own family.
Wow. That's beautiful. Oh my goodness.
It's lovely.
I was not expecting such a happy ending to that. It's
Well,
really
now we've got questions from the audience.
And this painting, see, I'm backwards. And this painting, this is a self-portrait my dad painted of himself when he was in his early 30s.
Oh wow.
So right around
wow.
the time of Manos, he painted this.
So the artistic bug runs throughout the family.
Oh yes, in fact, this sculpture was not in Manos, but he made this as well.
Oh wow.
Excellent.
That's
Wow.
very nice.
Hands were his specialty.
Let's get to some fan questions. These are submitted by Misties on our forums. And they had a lot of questions, and a lot of them are very interesting. And I want to start with this one might be a fun challenge. This is for all of you. Someone asked, is there an aspect of this movie that you actually think is all right or well done? Well, Mary Jo nodded her head really quickly. What do you think, Mary Jo?
Yeah, you know what? That last song is. I really dig that last song. What do you call that? The soundtrack song. I think it's. I really dug it.
Forgetting
and that's the long and the short of that.
Yeah, so the soundtrack was the best part of the whole film.
Yeah, not that not that, but the lady singing and that sort of
getting you
bossa nova kind of.
But it was a woman. Who was a jazz singer in El Paso who was hired to sing "Forgetting You" and "Love Inside This Magic Circle." And when we did our sequel, Manos Returns, in 2016, we found her in Chicago. And so on our soundtrack of Manos Returns, it's her singing, redoing the songs, Forgetting You and Love Inside This Magic Circle. So we got everybody we could find that was still living to be part of that film. My dad was in it, and Diane Marie, who'd played my mother in the original, we brought her out from Colorado and she was in it as well. But yeah, the soundtrack, that's the best part.
I was going to say, I like the titles at the end. They're very unique, and there's nothing, you can't really compare them to anything you've seen before, but that ending seems to have a cool quality to it. I like that, like with the music and then those unique titles. And it's just unusual.
Well, and I have to say something about those end titles is that how inflated the cast and crew, because there was really so few people involved. So he made up names, and he didn't actually, chauvinism, I suppose. He didn't actually know the names of most of the wives, so he just made up names.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
So actually, I'm friends with one of the wives. She still lives in El Paso, and her name is Isela Garcia. She is not credited at all. And then it says Thomas Ivy. Well, that's my dad. Tom Neyman is Thomas Ivy Neyman. Ivy's his middle name. And then Jacqueline, that's my mom, and her name is Jackie, like mine. It's not Jacqueline. So he made up a bunch of stuff for those titles.
Wow. Quite a showman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yeah, really. There's another question here. Another fun challenge to pose to all of you, and I'm especially interested to hear Jackie's answer to this. Is there a movie you've seen that you consider worse than Manos?
Yes.
Jackie, you got one?
Oh, well, I was actually in it. It's called The Curse of Bigfoot. I think you guys did that one too. I don't know.
I've seen that one.
I've never been able to watch that one all the way through. It's really, really, really bad. But my high school drama class, my high school teacher was friends with this guy that wanted to finish this film that had been started, and he needed a high school class, and we were just in one scene. But yeah, that one's way, way worse.
I was going to say we've got a movie coming up that I think is a contender called The Bubble, Arch Obler's The Bubble, which we're doing. What episode is it, Matt? In the season 13,
It
is it 9 or
13, 12? It'll be the 12th episode.
It's the 12th episode, but I'm going to suggest that it has that same kind of dread that Manos had.
Yeah.
So check it out.
I'll have to try.
You got one, MJ?
I don't know that I do. I would be hard pressed to say there is one out there. I think Manos is bad in its own constellation. I mean, yeah.
Well, so you do know it has been taught in film schools as everything not to do in filmmaking.
Did not know that, and that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sage advice. And it actually leads us to our next question. Someone asked, what about Manos makes it a particularly bad movie? I know it's a long list, but if there was one thing you guys could single out about it.
I have a few ideas about it. I mean, I think it's supposedly that wasn't it the camera only could record 90 seconds at a time, something
32,
like that.
32 seconds
at a time, and they couldn't do the sound at the same time, right? So
right.
they basically composed the movie, edited it together, and then looped it. And but I think, again, as Jackey mentioned, they reissued it, and didn't they strike a new print and redo the color and everything like that? And I think part of what we saw was multiple iterations of a movie being printed over and over again. So it has this kind of silty vibe to it. It's the sound, and then the way it's so disjointed. Those things all, to me, kind of work together. But anybody else? Those are my ideas about it.
But it's hard to pinpoint one thing, because it's like the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. To me, it's the thing that pops out are the terrible camera angles. Like, you couldn't be bothered to lower your camera just a little bit to get people balanced within the frame. That's the first thing that pops into my mind.
And there was no monitor back then. It really was up to the camera person, and one person could look there, put in there, and go, I guess that's right.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't like there was big feed, and there's a big monitor, everybody's looking at it going, oh, move that camera. It was just all based on the cameraman.
Yeah. And it wasn't
Right.
stylistic. It was just lazy. It was just like, just point it in that direction.
Well, and lack of experience, because the film was bought and the camera was rented, and it was a Filmos 70. They rented what they could afford, and the camera was actually used in Korea and Vietnam for war footage, and it only shot 32 seconds at a time. It was a wind up and it shot silent. So the film did have to be dubbed no matter what. So yeah, there was quite a number of issues to do with that. And then there's hardly any outtakes because the film was expensive, and Hal pretty much had to use everything they shot in order to make it feature length.
Oh my goodness.
Excellent.
The secret is
Wow.
Yeah, when Ben Solovey found the original work print that went through the camera in 1966, and he did a Kickstarter, he raised, I think it was $48,000 to restore it, and he restored it frame by frame. I mean, it had the old Scotch tape. I mean, it was in bad shape. And it's a whole different experience to watch the restoration. It's like watching a really good print of a bad film. It's like it's a weird mind trip.
That's fascinating.
I've heard a lot of great things about the Blu-ray transfer, but there's always that caveat, like you're still watching Manos, The Hands of Fate.
Yes.
You're just watching a much better looking thing of it. And there was always, what struck me is that, like, I first saw this episode when I was, I don't know, maybe 15, 16 years old. And I saw it on VHS back when the show was being released on tape and everything. And there was something about the VHS quality of the show also sort of deteriorating the quality of the movie itself, which already had like a tape feel to it. And you got the sense that this was the kind of movie that was just discovered on a tape one day, which is pretty much exactly how Best Brains got it. It was in a box of tapes. But you have to wonder about, like, where did the tape come from? How is it made? Like, there must have been some kind of supernatural force involved that just got that tape to Best Brains, because otherwise, like, it could have been lost forever.
I feel that about the whole Manos journey. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It is almost supernatural. It's really strange the way
Torgo delivered it, personally to Best Brains.
In his pants.
And for me, I've just seen, from the beginning, when Manos was discovered, I was just so thrilled. This young man, Matthew, he sent me a bootleg VHS copy in the mail, and I still have it, where he hand wrote on it.
That's so cool.
And I took it into my bedroom and I watched it by myself, and I was so happy and I was satisfied. I'm like, I got my dream. I found it. And I thought that was the end of it. And then it started getting popular, and then it flattened off, and every single time it would do that, I was satisfied. I was happy. But every time it starts rising again, it's more, and then it flattens off, and then it goes like this, and it's just, I don't know. I'm just along for the ride, and I'm having a great time.
What a great way to put it. Yeah.